You have been listening to Radio Romania International's Encyclopedia.
To Radio Romania International.
Coming up next on the program, Through the Looking Glass. Hello, this is your host Anna Maria Popescu, inviting you to listen to a fresh installment of our weekly show Through the Looking Glass. Today we'll be talking about the greatest Romanian musician of all times and one of the neglected giants of the 20th century, as George Enescu was often described, so don't go away. Perfection, which is the goal of so many people, is of no interest to me. What matters in art is for you to resonate and to make others resonate. This was the creed of George Enescu, the first Romanian composer whose works have gained a place in the world cultural heritage. Musician and musicologist Maria Balabas explains what made Enescu a noteworthy personality of world music. It is his ability and talent to use the forms created by the academic music of Western Europe in order to convey the sound specific to Romanian music. And since at that time this kind of synthesis was quite unique, and since Enescu was famous both as a violinist and as a professor, I believe this is one of the reasons why Enescu became internationally acclaimed, says Maria Balabas. Born on August the 19th, 1881 in the village of Liveni Vârna, later renamed after him in Botoșani County, northeastern Romania, George Enescu was a prodigiously gifted violinist, as well as a pianist, conductor, and teacher. His greatest dream ever since childhood was to write music. As he told the radio journalist and music critic Bernard Gavotti, strangely enough, I did not know anything about this. I had not listened to anything or to very little music. I had nobody around to influence me, and still, ever since childhood, I had this thing about being a composer, about being just a composer. Apparently, his first decisive experience came at the age of 3, when young George Enescu heard a fiddler band. He was only 4 when he started to get basic music teaching from his father, and at 5 he was introduced to Eduard Caudela, a composer and professor at the Music Academy in Iași, who guided his first steps in music. In 1888 he went to Vienna, and for 6 years he attended the conservatory there and studied with famous professors like Zygmunt Bacchus and Joseph Helmersberger Jr. At the recommendation of the later, her violin professor and the son of the Vienna Conservatory director, the 14-year-old George Enescu was sent to further his education at the Paris Conservatory. 2 landmarks in his artistic life date back to this period. One of them is George Enescu's first recital with his own works at only 15 years of age as part of a chamber concert at the Petit Salle Pleyel in Paris, a moment defined by musicologist Viorel Cosma as confirming the emergence of an exceptional Romanian creator in the international context. 1 year later, in 1898, the second important event took place, the first performance in Paris of George Enescu's Romanian poem. L'Association Artistique Orchestra was conducted by Edouard Colon. The work was a great success both with the public and with critics. Shortly after World War II, George Enescu left Romania permanently and settled in Paris, where he died in 1955. His international fame enabled George Enescu to travel the world, as he was invited to give masterclasses in Paris and Fontainebleau in France, in Siena, Italy, Illinois, and New York in the United States, in Brighton and Bryanston in the UK. As Maria Balabash emphasized, George Enescu's international recognition was also reinforced by his students, who promoted his thinking. Some of the most noteworthy ones were Yehudi Menuhin, Anali Patti, Arthur Grimont, Christian Perez, and Ida Handel. But what is the essence of composer George Enescu's works? Maria Balabash.
Din creația lui George Enescu, mi se pare esențial felul în care...
What I think is essential in George Enescu's works is the way in which he chose to relate to Romanian folklore, because it is a type of music sensitivity that every person in this world is able to grasp. It is about how Enescu managed, especially in his mature works, to process the information deriving from folklore and turn it into his own musical language, as it was the case with the Violin Sonata No. 3, or with the Chamber Symphony, his last completed work. I believe this is unique in Romanian music, and at the same time, it is what makes Enescu international. Every time we hear music which is related to a tradition specific to a certain part of the world, our sensitivity is awakened, and we respond whether we like it or not. That was musician Maria Balabash wrapping up today's Through the Looking Glass. Your host Anna Maria Popescu tells you goodbye for now and leaves you with a fragment from Enescu's Sonata No. 3.
Welcome everyone to a fresh edition in our DX Mailbag series. I'm Eugen Nasta. Once again, we go on a journey around the world, greeting listeners and friends, allowing you to compare how other listeners across the continents receive our programs. Today we begin with a reception report sent in by Shinichiro Mori, who lives in Sayama City, Saitama in Japan. Our listener tuned into our programs on July the 5th, 2014, from 21:50 to 22:45 hours UTC on 9790 kHz. He uses an ICOM IC R75 receiver with a passive whip antenna. Our listener's simple rating for our programs was 45444. Also for the day of July the 5th, 2014, we received a reception report from yet another listener from Japan, Mr. Sakai Onozawa, who lives in Yokohama, Kanagawa. Our good old friend tuned into our programs from 2200 to 2256 hours UTC on 11940 kHz. His simple rating for our programs was fair, Mr. Onozawa uses a JRC NRD receiver with a 1.5 meter long external rod antenna. There's another friend of Radio Romania International who sent in his reception report for the day of July the 5th, 2014. Mr. Andrei Kuznetsovs, who lives in Riga, Latvia, tuned into our programs from 11:02 to 11:26 hours UTC on 17670 kHz. Andres uses a portable Grundy Yachtboy receiver with a 75 meter long antenna. His simple rating for programs was 5-all. From the city of Ryazan in Russia, we received a reception report sent in by Mr. Dmitry Kutuzov. Our listener uses a Dagen 1103 receiver with a telescopic antenna. His simple rating for programs was 45444. Dmitry tuned into our programs on July the 6th, 2014 on 9700 kHz from 0530 to 0556 hours UTC. From San in Malta, we received a reception report sent in by Mr. Adrian Mikalev, who tuned into our programs on June the 8th, 2014 on 15400 kHz from 1300 to 1400 hours CET. Adrian's simple rating for our programs was 5-all. Thanks a lot, Adrian, for your report. We're really looking forward to receiving other reports from you as well, in the hopes you'll soon get to like Radio Romania International's programs. From Canada, we received a reception report sent in by Mr. Doug Copeland, who lives in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Doug tuned into our programs on July the 21st, 2014 on 9645 kHz from 0257 to 0355 hours UTC. Our listener uses a Kenwood R600 receiver with a 40-foot long wire antenna. Doug's simple rating for programs was 544. Our good old friend Craig Christ, who lives in Manassas, Virginia, the United States of America, tuned into our programs on July the 4th, 2014 from 1100 to 1156 hours UTC on 1760 kHz. Craig uses a Wind Radio G33 DDC SDR Excalibur Pro receiver with a Wellbrook Imperium loop antenna. His simple rating for programs was 45544. For the day of July the 8th, 2014, we received a reception report sent in by Sanoshi Nishioto, who lives in Fuku City, Tokyo, Japan. Sanoshi tuned into our programs from 0530 to 0557 hours UTC on 21500 kHz. Mr. Nishioto uses a Sony ICF SW 7600 receiver with a rod antenna. Our listeners' simple rating for our programs was 35343. We stay in Japan, since for the day of July the 4th, 2014, we received a reception report from Mr. Mikio Kohara, who lives in Setsu City, Osaka. Mikio tuned into our programs on 9790 kHz from 2158 to 2245 hours UTC. He uses an Icon ICR75 receiver with a 1.6 meter rod type antenna. Mr. Kohara's simple rating for programs was 35343. Well, that has really brought our DX mailbag to an end today. Thank you all for the interest you take in Radio Romania International's programs. Everyone who sent us a reception report will receive a QSL card in the shortest time possible. Tune in again next time. Until then, from me, Eugen Nasta, it's goodbye and 73s.